Welcome and thank you for joining me in the kitchen today while I try out this holiday meal. I'm making pistachio crusted salmon, roasted vegetable and quinoa gratin, and popovers. Today I'm only cooking enough for my husband and me, but this meal could easily be scaled up for a crowd. I'm starting with the most time-consuming part of this meal, which is the roasted vegetable gratin. I'm chopping up onion, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower, but you could use whatever vegetables roast up well and that you like. Broccoli, carrots, or even winter squash would be great here. I'm cutting the Brussels sprouts into quarters, trying to keep all the veggies bite-sized. I'll link the recipe that inspired this dish in the description box below. I did make several small changes, but if you need to see more specific measurements, you'll find it useful. Once I have everything chopped, I add a little salt, some black pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, and just enough olive oil to very lightly coat the veggies. Then I pop them in the oven and roast until the edges just begin to brown. While the veggies are roasting, I'll get some quinoa cooking. I'm using veggie broth in place of water just to add a little bit of flavor. And I'm also going to flavor up the quinoa with salt, pepper, and again, a little more garlic powder. Once the quinoa is done cooking, we are going to make it creamy, cheesy, and flavorful. Off the heat, I add some milk, a little more salt and pepper, some dried oregano, and some red pepper flakes. We like heat in our food, so I add a fair amount. You can use just a pinch or skip it altogether if you're not a fan of heat. Then comes the cheese. I grate in a bunch of Gruyere cheese. The cheese is flavorful without being strong or funky, and it melts great. Use as much as you like. Add in the veggies and then stir it all together and place it in a baking dish that is lightly coated with cooking spray. Once I have the veggies in the pan, I just set it aside while I make a topping. The original recipe called for breadcrumbs, but I prefer panko. I was recently very excited when I found out that they make whole wheat panko. And if needed, you can find gluten-free panko as well. I flavor it up with salt and pepper and some more red pepper flakes. I then added some fresh herbs. Use what you have, use what you like. I recorded this early in December, and at that point, I'm still able to get thyme and parsley from my herb garden. I also had a bunch of basil left over from another meal, so I used some of that too. I just chopped up the herbs, added them into the panko along with some grated Parmesan cheese. Add in a little olive oil, stir it around, and then this panko topping can go right on top of the veggies. The nice thing about this is it can be set aside and baked later. It makes it perfect for holidays because you can prep it in the morning and then just wait and cook it at dinner time. Moving on to prepping the salmon. I rinsed and dried the fish. And again, today, because I'm only cooking for 2, I'm just using 2 pieces of salmon. It's very easy to scale this up. You just need a bigger pan and a few more pistachios. I grab a handful of shelled pistachios and finely chop them. If you aren't a fan of pistachios, pecans or walnuts would work as well. With that prep done, I'm going to start my popovers. The batter is simply melted butter, milk, flour, eggs, and a pinch of salt. I grew up with my dad making popovers for the holidays, but it wasn't until recently that I learned popovers are essentially Yorkshire pudding, just made with butter instead of beef fat. Who knew? The best way to bake these is in a popover pan, but when I grew up, my dad just used a muffin tin and they turned out fine. Preheat the pan in the oven and then butter the inside and the top edge of the wells. Fill them about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full. I cut this recipe in half, so I only made 4. It's almost dinner time, so I put the veggies in the oven at the same time I preheated my popover pan. Popovers cook at high heat for the first half, and then you lower the temperature for the second half. So I removed the gratin at the halfway point and started the salmon. While the saute pan and oil were heating, I added a little flour to the flesh side of the salmon and then popped the fish in the pan, flesh side down, just to get a little bit of a crust. And then I flipped it over, added some Dijon mustard, and topped it with the nuts. The fish then just goes in the oven for 5 or 10 minutes until it reaches the doneness that you prefer. I personally think salmon should be cooked about medium rare. Serve this up and enjoy. Add a salad to this meal and it's great for a holiday, a Sunday family meal, or date night. Thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Tracy Martirana, and I enjoy sharing healthy recipes, herbal remedies, yoga flows, and short meditations, everything you need to live a healthy, happy, and balanced life. Have a great day.